The Bible is a book full of amazing stories. It talks about miracles, wars, and the lives of important people. But did these things really happen? This is a question people have been asking for centuries. Some people believe every word of the Bible is true. Others see it as a collection of stories passed down through generations. The Bible has a big impact on many people's lives. It shapes their beliefs and values. So, it's important to ask ourselves, what parts of the Bible are based on real events and what parts are fictional? It's not always easy to separate fact from fiction, especially when dealing with ancient texts. Imagine finding a diary buried in your backyard. It's from hundreds of years ago, and the language is difficult to understand. How would you know if the writer was telling the truth or just writing down their dreams? This is the challenge we face with the Bible. It's an ancient book written in a different time and culture. To understand it, we need to approach it with open minds and a willingness to explore different perspectives. Imagine a future where something terrible happens. Maybe a huge meteor hits the Earth or a deadly virus spreads across the globe. Almost everyone dies. A few people survive, but they lose most of their history and knowledge. Now imagine these survivors finding a copy of Harry Potter. They've never heard of magic or Hogwarts. They read about spells, mythical creatures, and a boy who defeats evil with a wand. Would they think it was a true story? Without any other information, they might. The Bible can seem similar. It's a very old book, written long ago. The world was a very different place then. People didn't have the same understanding of science and history that we have today. So when we read about miracles like parting the Red Sea or turning water into wine, it's important to remember the context. These stories were written in a time when people explained the world differently than we do now. Ancient people didn't have video cameras, voice recorders, or even printing presses, so how did they share stories and information? They used their voices. Stories were passed down orally from one generation to the next. Imagine a game of telephone. One person whispers a phrase to another and it goes around a circle. By the end, the original message is often lost or changed. The same thing could happen with stories told long ago. As people retold stories, they might have added details, exaggerated events, or combined different accounts. This doesn't mean the stories were intentionally false. It just means they evolved over time, like whispers changing in the wind. Section 4. Lost in translation. The Bible wasn't written in English. The Old Testament was mostly written in Hebrew, and the New Testament was written in Greek. Later, these texts were translated into many different languages, including English. Translating is tricky. Words don't always have exact equivalents in other languages. Plus, languages change over time. So, the way we understand a word today might be different from how people understood it thousands of years ago. Even small translation differences can change the meaning of a text. For example, the original Hebrew word for young woman in Isaiah 7:14 was mistranslated as virgin in some versions of the Bible. This mistranslation has had a huge impact on Christian theology. Section 5. The Bible's Storytellers. The Bible wasn't written by a single author. It's a collection of books written by many different people over hundreds of years. These authors came from different backgrounds and had different perspectives. Some biblical authors were kings or prophets. Others were shepherds or fishermen. Each author had their own reasons for writing and their own way of telling a story. Understanding the historical context of each book is essential. For example, the book of Daniel was likely written during a time of persecution for the Jewish people. This context helps us understand why the book includes apocalyptic imagery and themes of resistance against oppression. Section 6. A Tapestry of Truth. So, did the Bible really happen? It's a complex question with no easy answers. The Bible isn't a history textbook or a science journal. It's a collection of sacred texts that have been interpreted and reinterpreted for centuries. Some parts of the Bible are likely based on real events, while others might be symbolic or allegorical. It's up to each individual to decide what they believe. The Bible's stories have inspired and challenged people for generations. Whether we see them as literal truth or metaphorical lessons, they continue to shape our understanding of faith, morality, and the human condition. The Bible, with all its mysteries and complexities, remains a powerful force in the world today.